Okay, good afternoon, parents. I've gotten a couple texts from students and from parents saying that they're having trouble with the paragraph that is due on Monday for the informative explanatory essay. So I decided to make this little video to explain to you. It's easier than texting, and I could actually show you. So this is the packet that each student has. I also texted this and emailed this to anybody who had the Remind access. So you do have it electronically. It has it has a bunch of explanation right here, but we didn't go through that in class. What we went through is everything that's typed. So this is our basic, most fundamental part of the topic, and the students are writing about what drives them to undertake a mission. But we're going to leave this for a minute and talk about the resources that they have in order to help them with this. So I'm going to minimize this. This is the student view on StudySync, and this particular student has a lot of assignments showing that are assigned by a teacher who's not me. That's a glitch. This student up here is not missing a bunch of assignments. So in StudySync, when they log in, it automatically takes them to the Assignments tab. And most of you know that you can go to the binder and see what they have accomplished and how they've scored. But today we're actually going to go to the Library tab. And we don't use this very often, but this is where they should go if they have forgotten their book or if they need help on something and they don't have a resource. So here we're going to click in the search bar and we're going to type informative writing. Okay, so I've searched for informative writing, and you can see that I get all the grade levels. So I'm going to scroll down and find 7th grade, and then I'm going to click on 7th grade. And then in here, there's nothing useful here. I don't even know why that's there. But you can go to Intro, and Intro has the whole writing prompt. We wrote on our papers the actual question part that they were being asked, but the whole writing prompt is all of this right here, and that's why we didn't write it all down. So here is the part that shows the actual question, what drives us to undertake a mission. So the nice thing about this is in here it tells them what they need to include, and we've been working our way through this piece by piece for the last 3 days of class. It also gives them some examples of what kinds of writing they can look at for examples. And then over here, there's a read section, and there's an entire completed sample essay for what the paragraphs need to look like. So they can't copy these paragraphs, but they can use them as an example. There's Stanley Pierce, Farah Ahmedi from Other Side of the Sky, and Annie Johnson, and they get to pick any of the 3 that we used in class, and we read 10, I believe. So any 3 of the 10, it doesn't matter which ones they choose. And all they have to focus on this weekend is one paragraph like this. They don't have to write the whole essay. They're just writing one paragraph. So there are some questions here that they don't need to answer. And then there's another option here for them to be able to see the prompt again. So that's an additional piece of help. Also in their book, there is explanations of thesis statement, body paragraphs, introduction, conclusion. That's all in the end of their book as well. And I will see if I can go to my teacher view and send it somehow to them without giving it to them as an assignment, because I wasn't going to give it to them as an assignment in StudySync here. So let's go back to the document. And here we wrote what drives us to undertake a mission, and everybody should have this and a little bit more in their prompt box. And then on Friday, this is what we went through together. So they had spent a couple days working on their thesis statement, working on what they were going to decide to write about out of their choices. And so this is one that I wrote for them as an example. The most important part here is that students have the question, what drives us to undertake a mission? And we turned it into a statement. What drives us to undertake a mission is, right here. And then we generalized something that everybody they were going to write about had in common. So in this case, we chose perseverance. They could choose a word that is related to all of their characters that they're choosing. Perseverance might not be the best word for the characters that they've chosen. So we have Ernesto Galarza, and this is sort of like I told them think a 6-word summary because we did that earlier in the year. 6 words basically about what happened in that piece. And then for Farah Ahmedi, we have a little bit more because we couldn't do it in 6 words, but that's okay. And Annie Johnson, we have a little bit more for the same reason. So I can look at this statement and know exactly what it is they're going to write about. Ernesto Galarza is one paragraph, Farah Ahmedi will be the next paragraph, and Annie Johnson will be the last before the conclusion. So that's why this sentence is so important. It's a really long, complicated sentence, but that's what it is. And we call that sentence the thesis statement. So then here, under possible subtopics, we wrote a little bit more about the people that they had chosen, because they're going to need that in the introduction paragraph. And then on Thursday night, their homework was to write the introduction paragraph. And so the hook could be anything. They could use questions, one question or multiple questions. They could use a quote that talks about choices or missions or independence or perseverance or any number of things. And then they need to go into the background information. So here we're explicitly connecting the going on the mission to the individual people that the students have chosen. And so you can see it's the same pattern. Barrio Boy, Ernesto Galarza, Other Side of the Sky, Farah Ahmedi, New Directions, Maya Angelou. These are just the ones that I chose in the order that I chose to go in. Again, the students have, I believe it was 10 to choose from. They can choose any of those 10. None of them are worth more points than the other. It's whichever ones the students want to write about. So here they're using this subtopic area that they came up with in order to explain a little bit more about what was going on in the characters' lives so that they can write their essay about them without having to tell so much of the story in the individual paragraphs. And then at the end, so there's a lot of blank space here, and that's fine. That's partly because this is typed and not handwritten. The space is mostly for them to have space writing it out by hand. And then this is the thesis statement again. It's exactly the same as it was on the other page. We just copied it here because this is where it would actually go in the essay. So then what they have for homework this weekend, if they didn't finish it in class, is this body paragraph number 1. And body paragraph number 1 is only going to focus on Ernesto Galarza. So if I go back up here a little bit and I look at my thesis, the very first character I'm talking about in my thesis statement is Ernesto Galarza, this part right here. Ernesto Galarza was learning English. Okay, so if I look at that part and I'm going to take the idea of what he was doing and make it into my claim. And I need to be explicit, and I need to say that he's going on a mission. So Ernesto Galarza undertook a mission. Our topic is what drives people to undertake a mission. So here I'm saying he undertook a mission when, and then I'm going to explain exactly how he was doing that. That's my claim for this paragraph. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find something out of the text that we read, the story, which is at the very beginning of the Study Sync book, or they can go look in their binder online and see the assignments that we did and actually see the text. And they're going to go find something about him going to school for the first time in the U.S., because that's what this claim says. So we can see that he moved from Mexico because he writes, it was a new building, painted yellow, with a shingled roof that was not like the red tiled roof of the school in Mazatlan. So Mazatlan is in Mexico, so we know that that's not the United States. So this shows that he used to go to school in Mazatlan. Now he doesn't. He goes to school in the United States. So that's basically the next step. So explanation, we explain how this quote right here under evidence and supporting details, how that shows the claim that we're making. So we wrote, because he talks about the school in Mazatlan, and we can see on a map that Mazatlan is in Mexico, we can infer that Ernesto has recently come from Mexico. It makes sense that he would need to learn English because the language of Mexico is Spanish. Learning a new language is hard, so this is his mission. The next part that they would move on to is what he had to do in order to learn English, because that was the other part of the story, that he had trouble with words like butterfly, and he had trouble with words, he practiced bow wow wow and run, and they would individually work with their teacher, and that's what the story is about. So then the next thing we would look for is something about that. There are at least 7 places in the story that they could choose, and they would put one here for evidence of him learning English and what kinds of things he had to do, the practice and the saying things wrong, and how he had to translate things in Spanish and then learn them. All of that, any of those could go here. They only need one example, and there's at least 7 examples in the story. And then just like up above, just like right here where we talked about how moving from Mazatlan to the United States meant that he moved from Mexico and he needed to learn English. Once they showed what he was doing to learn English, they would explain how that meant that he was learning English and how that was a mission. And then that would be the end of the paragraph. So that's all they need to accomplish for today. The next step that we're going to do on Monday is to take the second person that they're choosing and then write the next claim and the next set of evidence. So it's really important that they finish this part this weekend, because we're going to look at them together and make sure that everybody has all the parts that they need before we go on to the next paragraph. So if they don't finish this, then they're going to have to do it in class before they can start the next one. And then they will be behind. So that's an issue. That's why I gave them class time on Friday, and that's why that they need to finish it this weekend before they come on Monday. They can all come to my classroom on Monday before school. I will be there by 7:30. They don't need to be there at 7:30, but they can come anytime between 7:30 and the beginning of school, and we can work on it until school starts. Thank you. Hope this helps. Have a great day.